whole journey out west started with me being on the phone with the World Trade Towers when they collapsed in 2001. It's palpable and it's life-altering to have this type of access to nature.
So as soon as I was old enough to kind of start voyaging out on my own, I started getting the hell across the Mississippi, because out west was wild, man.
I grew up global, which expanded my horizons because I was literally traveling around the world, seeing the world through different eyes.
Fast forward to 2012, I was having a good go in Portland, but my life kind of just blew up in 2012. I got recruited to come here, Eric. I really came here to ride PAL, and I came here to climb. Even today, it's Mecca for climbers, man. If you're a climber, it's a rite of passage to get to walk those walls and work in that building.
And I had already decided that falling in love was not hard to do. Finding a person and a partner who you could talk with, live with, and build a life together was.
I already had a couple businesses under my belt. I started her on just a spreadsheet model to run her business. And from there, we just continued to outgrow locations. The stakes got higher. It's like Vegas. You gotta put money in the game to make money.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Small Lake City Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Nilsson. Now, this week we are joined by Jessa Munion and Jeff Roche. Now, Jessa and Jeff started a business called Rocksteady Body Works, based in Holladay. It is both a place of practice and education around bodyworks and Pilates. While Bodyworks has built an amazing community around their practice of Pilates and bodyworks, both Jessa and Jeff have amazing backgrounds of how they found themselves here in the Salt Lake Valley. From Jessa traveling around the world, working in consulting in DC, until after 9/11 pushed her to rethink about what she wanted to do with her life. And likewise with Jeff, finding himself growing up in Michigan, to finding himself in Alaska through Portland, and then found himself here after chasing some of the best snow and best places to rock climb. But two great people who have found themselves cemented here in Salt Lake City, love the community, love the outdoors, and want to do the best that they can to protect it. So let's jump into it. I think this is one you're all going to enjoy, but I'll see you on the other side and enjoy the conversation with Jessa and Jeff.
I was just trying to pull up a little graphic I love where it's like, make it exist first.
Yes.
Make it better.
And I mean, I'm sure both of you can attest to it in the various aspects of the things that you've built and created. Like, it's funny to talk to people because I'm 35, in my mid 30s, and there's kind of like these two paths that a lot of people in my world have done. There's the people who have started to do something or have done something, and then there's the people it's like, oh, well, I have this idea, or I think it'd be nice, or like
That's very
maybe one day. It's like, hey, if you never like take that one step, it never will. It's like, and it's always, it's the same as like getting a dog or having kids. Like, well, we're waiting for the perfect moment. Like, listen, sweetheart, those don't exist.
They don't. And I mean, you just have to get it out of your head on paper in real life and get going. Absolutely. Agreed. Thinking, concept, idea has to hit matter and interact in the physical world.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, like when you start something, people will usually not like celebrate you at the beginning. It's like, oh, you're trying this? Like, not a good idea. There's all this risk. Why would you do that? And like, thank you for showing me how you approach this and how your anxiety jumps in. But I'm going to go do it. And then all of a sudden it reaches the point of inflection where it becomes something, and then they'll champion you and you're like, yeah. Time goes by no matter what.
Leadership is a thankless job, is what we say.
Totally. It's just how it is. And like, I mean, it's probably the same way where, I mean, once something becomes something, it's like, oh, this is like overnight success, right? That's how this came. It's like, oh no,
10 years.
No. Takes so much time. Yeah. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you both today because I was talking to Jeff a little bit when we met up.
Yeah.
Are we rolling on the tape here?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Just let it in chat.
Oh yeah. I don't like doing all right, everybody. Now welcome to the Small Lake City Podcast, where today we have Jessa and Jeff to talk about.
But I'm enjoying that. That's hysterical.
That makes you want to just like rip all of my long hair. And it's nice because
has a great lead in. Chris Kalous did the Normal Cast back in the day at the Loft when we had it.
Yeah.
He's an amazing podcaster. He's a climbing kind of iconic figure that tells history.
Yeah.
And he does a set.
Yeah, I typically like to just, warm people up because no one's ever like ready to be like, are you ready to talk about the details of your life in chronological order and how it impacts the community?
I know, right?
So it takes, it's a little, and I'm so used to it. And I'm curious enough that I can usually just jump into any conversation. And I can even tell like in social conversations when like my podcaster brain comes on, well, they'll say something unique, be like, now, how'd you start doing that? Tell me about this. How does it align to your own personal journey? Got it.
Jeff always says that interesting people are interested, and it always helps me flip from talking to asking.
Yes.
I think it's just such a powerful way to really connect with people. So
Yeah, like one conversation I had, I guess it was like a year and a half ago now, with Micah Christensen, who's like the third generation art dealer at Anthony's Fine Art at Antiques, on 3rd South and 5th-ish East, 6th East, around there. And so, I mean, he has a master's in art, PhD in art. And one phrase that he used that I liked is, because he grew up in is his father being an art collector. So he's like, oh, I know this, I could do this. Then goes and learns about it. He's like, oh, that was when my knowledge became measured. And then there's the whole aspect of like what's the philosophy of like the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
oh, like Zen Buddhism, like
No,
in your mind.
something Dennis Kruger. Anyway, it'll come to me. But that's like when he's like, oh, I now know how much I knew and how much I know. And I've realized that in my own interactions, where if I'm having a conversation with someone, there's times I'm like either connecting or teaching, but then I'll be like, oh, time to turn, like flip into learning mode. Like, you have something that I can learn from you.
Yeah.
So now that's what I want to have, is more of like those learning moments. Because like, again, it goes back to that point of being interested.
Yeah.
I'd rather be interested in something than be like, now let me just continue to tell you about me and talk at you. Like, nobody likes that experience.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So totally agree. Remind me how you say your last name. It's either Munion or Munion.
Munion.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I didn't want to call you like an
Onion.
Yeah.
My little girl and I were talking about that because she doesn't like her little nickname at school. She was like, it's so sad they could be a nickname. And I was like, well, people used to call me Jessa Onion Munion. And she was like, that's hysterical. Just started laughing. I was like,
One day you'll laugh about it.
one day, Stone, it'll be funny.
It's okay. I was a chubby kid growing up, so I just got made fun of. I didn't have a name. I just got called fat.
Dude.
It's brutal.
So much more body positivity now, you know? But yeah, so I'm Jessa Munion and this is Jeff Roche. And
Yes.
I think for me, my world was already pretty established. I'm a practitioner and you know, my first last name was already recognized. So we kind of made the choice to just leave that intact. Yeah, because it spent years building it, you know?
Yeah. And the last thing you want to do is like, all right, we're going to not necessarily like rebrand, but then there's a little bit of a code switch to people.
I think it is a rebrand when you are a practitioner that people follow, like Jessa Munion, Jessa Roche. A name is.
Yeah, but I think it's also about identity, man. Like your name is like, that's your name. That's your given. And I think, you know, when people talk about, you know, feminism or masculinity, it's like, I think it's empowering to hold your name in the world. Like I hope our daughter one day just carries the name, you know, she finds a partner one day because, but going back to hers is that Jessa was so established for so long that it would have been really confusing to go change your last name. And I just had nothing on it. You know, she is who she is. And I wanted her to continue to be that person.
Totally. I mean, you go back to the classic book of like how to win friends and influence people. The best way you can win friends and influence people is remember their name. It's our favorite noise to hear, no matter who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to hear about the story of Rocksteady because like I'm someone who, if someone comes to me and comes from a business that there's a lot of them, the first question I'll always ask is like, what makes you different, or why should it be you to represent all of them? Mm-hmm. And so I talked to Jeff about that when we first talked about it. And I mean, he told me about you, told me a little more about Rocksteady, but then it wasn't until I experienced it that I was like, oh, this is much different and so much more of a community. But then also hearing like the tidbits of the journey along the way, which I'm excited to jump into more to hear how it's all come together, because it's been not just, you opened a thing 6 months ago and it's been great, but it's been this journey of your own personal practitioner journey. Mm-hmm. And then also bringing Jeff in and having him along in that journey and using his strengths to really build something special together.
Yep.
And neither of you are from here, but have found so much community and joy and, for lack of a better term, home in the Salt Lake area, and have become passionate about so many things around here I'm excited to talk about. But it sounds like you, Jessa, grew up bouncing around all over the place, but what made you want to land here? And what was so special about, Salt Lake / Utah that attracted you the most?
Great question. Yep. I did grow up global in many different continents and countries, and I'll try to give a brief answer, but the whole journey out west started with me being on the phone with the World Trade Towers when they collapsed in 2001. I was sitting 2 blocks from the White House at my consulting firm. I worked with DC Defense and New York Finance. And in my early years of a career, to have that moment occur was a huge pivot point for me in my capacity to recognize this big dissonance and gap between what we're asked to do at businesses and work and what we're feeling and dealing with as humans. Mm. And so within a few months of that, I took a sabbatical and I went out west. I went to Vail, Colorado. I'd never been before. I'd never seen mountains or snow. Growing up in Africa and Asia, that wasn't a thing. And yeah, I fell in love with the healing power of moving outside on my snowboard in nature. And that, year sabbatical, 7 years flew by.
I always love that story because like when I was in college, I was one of the first Lyft drivers in Salt Lake. And it was wild to talk to people. And as you can imagine, and me being in a car with someone, lots of conversations and the amount of time. And I was so like ignorant of so much of Salt Lake and why people moved here. Because like growing up, I would go skiing. My grandpa would be the one to say his like 4 or 5 same jokes to the people on the chairlift. But then I like would never talk to people, go on my mission, come home, start talking to people more. I'm like, oh, wait, like not a single person I've talked to in the last 3 weeks has been from here.
Yeah.
And then as I was a Lyft driver, I'd be like, oh, like what brought you here? To be, oh, I came for a wedding and never left. I came on a vacation and never left. I needed to go find something new or find like myself in the world I was in and found that. And I growing up in Salt Lake before I like really moved back to Salt Lake after living in Seattle, like I didn't understand that. Cause like even growing up in the avenues, it's not like I was hiking up in the foothills or going up to Twin Peaks or spending time on like BST. But it was interesting. I was walking with my girlfriend, my dogs, up above the avenues, and we like she just kind of stopped, and I like stopped too. I was like, it was so quiet, so tranquil, but yet like could see Salt Lake. We're less than 10 minutes away from downtown.
Yeah,
and people don't, especially if you're from here and born and raised here, like you take it for granted. And then it's fun to spend time with people who move here because they don't take it for granted, and there's this whole energy about it.
Yeah,
but once you feel it,
it's palpable and it's life-altering to have this type of access to nature because, as a wellness practitioner and what I was needing at that time was an opportunity to integrate some of those huge life experiences while still keeping my feet on the ground. And so moving outside in nature is just intrinsically medicinal, and the science of well-being starts to teach us why we need to be in connection with nature. And so from Vail, I ended up deepening into a yoga practice that allowed me to connect with the founder of the Baptiste Institute, which is a world-renowned yoga institute that's headquartered in Park City. Yeah. So I came out here to work at that yoga institute with Barron. And
was there ever a moment where, because again, like you have this traumatic experience where you're like, I need to go figure something out because it isn't it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that connecting point between I'm going to take a sabbatical and go west, and then I want to start this practice, or I want to learn more about this?
I think moving here was a natural part of my own healing process.
Cool.
And a couple factors were hugely impactful. So getting here was so grounding. It's one of the first places that, compared to Vail, people had always told me it was a truck stop. And I was like, you don't know. Moving here, Park City felt like a real town. Salt Lake felt like a real place. And I kind of had this sense for the first time that this had all the elements I needed and I could stay here.
Yeah.
But I am going to say that meeting this one was really powerful in terms of our backgrounds and what created the opportunity for us to continue to explore. So I attended an Ivy League all-women's college, and I'm coming from the East Coast and working from a consulting firm in DC. Becoming a yoga teacher and a massage therapist, I personally had a lot of inherited beliefs about like what was a respectful field.
Yeah. I mean, those are polar opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. And what am I allowed to do? What's professionally relevant? What's just for fun? And Jeff is one of the first persons or people who really looked at me, saw me, and then treated me with such respect and saw more that I could accomplish than I would have thought of.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, which is, huge in a partner. Last thing you want to do is have a partner. It's like, oh, so you're still doing your thing? Oh, that's cute. Like, when are you going to go back to consulting? When are you going to go do like something that, because like that's one thing that I've learned a lot of in myself over the past few years is when it boils down to it, nobody fucking cares. Like we all have these like little perceptions of how people think about us, how we are perceived in society, what people think when we tell them what we do, and like this like social equity in it all, let's call it that. But in reality, like no one's keeping score, no one's watching, and any of these thoughts that we have, it's usually our own perceptions personified in other people. We're projecting it what other people say, because unless someone actually directly tells you, it's all just an assumption and you don't actually really know. But
True.
when you can flip it on its head and be like, oh, well, actually, this is what I want to do. I know who I am. I know my values. I know my strengths. I know what makes me happy and what I need to be the best version of myself. And this fits that. That's when magic happens. Because then
Totally.
once you start being your true self and doing those things, the right people show up, the right opportunities show up, which brings back to you being more of yourself because this new confidence happens. And all of a sudden this flywheel starts to happen, which I would argue if you weren't living your life in that way, Jeff probably wouldn't have recognized all of these things in you and your paths wouldn't have come together.
Absolutely. I think for me, I see everything through the lens of wellness. And what brought me here was that perpetual journey of self-discovery, which is one of the principles that we hold tight at Rocksteady. Is self-discovery is an active practice of curiously reflecting on yourself with an orientation of service to humanity through the practice of getting to know yourself better and understanding where are you aligned, where do you feel energy, what do you have to give. And I think the Salt Lake environment just felt really conducive to my overall well-being. And what I saw was an opportunity to start to express skill sets in a certain way. So I think opening the practice was really just a very natural, organic evolution that wellness to us is all about connection,
Yeah.
Interconnection inside of oneself and then interdependency. And it was here in Salt Lake learning those things and meeting Jeff that really kind of opened the door. We started backcountry skiing together and partnership just really started to present an incubator, a thought incubator space,
This was where it all starts.
Yeah.
Before we jump over to Jeff and kind of what brought him here, I mean, so you come here, you go to Park City, this Baptiste Institute where you're learning yoga. And then that transitioned into massage therapy and then your practice. I mean, anything you need to share there as far as like that journey goes, or is it mostly just kind of a reflection of that?
I think one thing that can happen with the yoga and the massage is that I think it can be, for me, what probably is a surprise to people is I did go to an Ivy League college. I am a very driven, ambitious, thought-focused person. My work in Vail was, I've always maintained a business focus and development while having these wellness practices. So when I came to Park City, it was because I was offered a leadership role at this privately held, independent, incredibly successful yoga institute, not a yoga studio serving hundreds of people in a valley, but a world-renowned entity that travels and offers teachings all around the world, reaching thousands, if not millions of people. And Baron Baptiste, the founder of that organization, was both a businessman and a person who had been practicing wellness from birth. And that resonated with me because my dad started me on a journey of self-inquiry and meditation and mindfulness and prayer and really presenced wellness my whole life. So I think the opportunity to develop and start to apply my business acumen in a wellness setting with an institute and a person who gave me a unique opportunity with a lot of trust and a lot of autonomy to try shit, to do things.
Yeah.
And so it was just in Park City, I was snowboarding and, hiring people and creating rules and then going to Mexico and meditating and doing yoga for 10 days. It was so high vibe. It was so high vibe. Yeah, it was really, really cool. But I think the style of yoga really focused on empowerment, agency, and transformation. And I think those qualities are very akin to wellness, which takes work to really stand in and authentically assess who you are, and then to have the courage to create something with that instead of getting bowed over or pushed along by the forces of mediocrity or what's common.
Yeah.
And so those things really lit me up. And at a certain point, I aspired for more. And I realized there was a ceiling at that organization. And so it was this, false summit, to use language that I love from Jeff's world, because you set your sights on this path and you think it's the top. And when you get there, what I found out was who I had evolved into. I really had so much I had so much more, and I had a lot of opinions about how things should go. And I was ready to lead something. And so that's the point that I pivoted and decided to go pursue massage therapy school.
Yeah.
And it was when I went to massage therapy school is when the idea of a practice opened up. Yoga was a pathway I was on. However, a practice of wellness is much larger than that. And with my global experience in Asia and Africa, the, you know, the fascinating world of how people care for themselves, whether it's through acupuncture or shiatsu, onsens in Japan, that's where once I got body work in the mix, that became very fascinating, very deep. And I had an awareness that there was a lot you can do beyond just one modality.
Well, and also, like, kudos to you on that, because so many people get so beholden to one, for using the same metaphor, like a summit.
Yeah.
This is the summit I want to get to. I don't really necessarily care as much about the journey as I care about this one milestone, this peak, this one thing that I'm beholden to.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get there and it's like, I don't know what to do, or I'm going to stay here because it's what I've always wanted. And I've seen so many people in my own life reach, the one I saw the most common was in college. I mean, I'd see people be like, I want to get straight A's. I'm going to get like 3 bachelor's degrees. And they do it. And it's like, oh, I don't know what's next, because I was so beholden on this. So I didn't realize that, again, and so much is a part of the practice of knowing yourself, knowing your journey, and being there for yourself, showing up for yourself, which is, showing up is the foundation of any sort of relationship. And a lot of people forget that it's also part of our own relationship is showing up for ourselves.
Yep.
To be like, oh, there's more than I want. This has hit its peak. This is right. And now this opened up the door to really bring everything together from your whole experience of your life up to that point.
Yeah. And I think with like the love of movement in the mountains is like a huge anchor for us, the love of nature. And when we talk about setting vision and goals, or like getting a sense of what you're going to do, I think so many people operate in the echo chamber of their own mind and fail to get into that co-creation, that co-creative space where you recognize you are interfacing with reality, which is much larger than you.
Yeah.
When we're out in the backcountry, and I've learned all of this from Jeff, you're in a conversation with the snowpack, with the sun angle, with the wind, the temperature. And these aren't factors you can ignore. You really need to know and communicate and connect with what's happening out there in the world around you.
Yeah.
So for us, I think I view my life and my work as a perpetual unfolding of that dynamic conversation between who I am and what I can offer and what the world around me is presenting.
Yeah.
And from that approach, there's always possibility and there's always a new place to head to. And that is how I think about wellness too for each person. We say you were born to move, and there's always a way to move towards wellness as a point, as a lighthouse from wherever you are, because life is dynamic. And, it's not a linear trajectory like so many of us that get a little locked in like rational left brain like to pretend.
Yeah. It's much more of a journey than a destination.
Totally.
It changes so much.
Yeah.
But I'll jump over to Jeff, because I know that, you're from Portland area and have like such a unique background, but talk to me a little bit about everything that led up to you being like, you know what? The snow in Salt Lake sounds a lot better than being up here.
Yeah, so actually, I'm born and raised in Flint, Michigan.
Okay.
Home of the Flintstones, home of the water crisis.
Wait, Flintstones is from Flint, Michigan?
Well, no, I'm talking about the Flintstones, the 2001 national championship. I'm going back to Mateen Clee. I was like Charlie Dell. I thought I just had like my OG basketball. But so I grew up Midwest upbringing where we never crossed the Mississippi. And so as soon as I was old enough to kind of start voyaging out on my own, I started getting the hell across the Mississippi, because out west was wild, man. We're back in the year 99, 2000. And so one way or another, I ended up on a boat in Alaska working boats for a summer. And on my last day on that boat, I met this man on the bow of the boat, and his name was David Sawyer. And this guy and I just dropped into like a 2-3 hour conversation on the bow of the boat, and we became really good friends that day. And we stayed in touch as I was finishing college, and I sent him an email kind of maybe in my, I did a management philosophy paper on him, and then I sent him an email where I said, hey, how's Portland? I'm like, what's the deal, man? Because he had moved to Portland from Alaska, because he was a executive coach with BP Amoco on a merger that was going on in Alaska, and then he was going to Portland. And he wrote me back something that really was formative to me. And what he said was, Roche, signs of intelligent life everywhere, come quick. And so I moved out on a train months later to Portland, And I stayed there for 12 years, kind of working in the energy industry and in financial consulting, and had a really amazing community and got to be part of Portland when it was a really, we're talking about 2002 to 2012. So really good years in that town. Like it was happening. And
The advent of the pour over.
yeah, this was like pre-Portlandia. Like
Second wave coffee is coming his way.
no, dude, like it was glorious. And all my people were there. I brought a lot of my friends from back way. And so either way, as that was going on, I started getting recruited to Salt Lake City. I got recruited to come here, Eric.
For like,
And
it's curious. Like, where did those recruiting come?
I got recruited by my brother in arms, my chosen brother, Brad Hutchison, who lived here. So Brad Hutchison is a very well-known climber in this community, a very well-known guy in the momentum climbing community. He's a really great mentor and advocate to young climbers at Momentum Climbing Gym. And Brad started being like, he had moved here to work at Black Diamond Equipment. And he's like, you got to get here, man. You got to be here. Well, fast forward to 2012, like I was having a good go in Portland, but my life kind of just blew up in 2012 in the spring. Like lots of things happened that were not sweet all at once. And I'm not going to go blow by blow. But I talked to David Sawyer and he just said, Roche, it's okay to leave. It's okay to move on. And so I kind of took that blessing and I moved out to Salt Lake City in the fall of 2012 to start new. And I really came here to ride PAL, and I came here to climb, and I came here to work at Black Diamond Equipment because at that time and years before, and even today, it's Mecca for climbers, man. If you're a climber, it's a rite of passage to get to walk those walls and work in that building. And I got to work under Peter Metcalf and some really wonderful people, and that's why I came here.
Definitely. And what led up to you guys eventually having your paths cross and end up in the backcountry together, which is always like a fun part of so many of these, like the stories of people meeting people. It usually has to do with something. Being around
us backcountry skiing?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. This is a good one. So, yeah, I mean, so when we started dating, she was like, I backcountry ski. I got a splitboard. And so I was like, okay, I'll take it backcountry skiing. Because I was an experienced mountaineer at this point. Like I'd been alpine climbing for years. Like I was a well-versed person in the mountains. I was deep into the craft. And so, streetwear park girl shows up on the scene with her like homemade cut split board, and all her getup is like all Oakley and all kinds of wild stuff. And
I was like park snowboarder
Yes.
girl from Vail. I had
Yeah.
friends who were pro snowboarders, so I got all their Oakley hand-me-downs, huge goggles. I thought backcountry
You gotta
skiing.
start somewhere.
You do. I thought backcountry skiing was like, let's tour up the mountain, the ski hill before the chairs open.
yeah, but then, so we started, when we started riding together, it was definitely like, a mentor kind of student relationship, because she was eager, but she didn't know it yet, right? But it's like, she's obviously an incredibly intelligent woman. So it was like, okay, let's just stay with it, and strong athlete. So we just put in the work together as a team, and it was pre-kids and stuff. So we just put lots of time in, and Jessa became a really good backcountry rider, where she's the only gal going out with real hitters, man. Like I used to ride with Martine Linden, who's a well-known guy, like Alex Hamlin, like Mike Will, like really strong riders. And we did cool stuff.
Yeah, I think Jeff's time in Portland, the thing that, and from Alaska, the big thing that drew him out west was the mountains. And that is something that appealed to me was, growing up global and living in Asia for a long time, having the family that I had, spiritual development, spiritual philosophy, mindfulness, self-development were all really key topics my whole life. I read that How to Win Friends when I was 12. Like that was forced reading by my dad. That wasn't optional. But so this one, I think the mindset of a climber, from what I was learning about wellness conceptually from yoga and meditation, climbers or alpine people concretely embody it so much more powerfully. I mean, when you're climbing in the mountains and your life is quite literally on the line that is held by your partner, the level of honesty and self-assessment that's required is insane. So I always resonated with him for that. But the way we met was kind of funny because he had come here to Salt Lake for his thing. I was up in Park City. And I don't know if Match.com is still a thing.
Definitely is.
Okay. But so he had reached out to me on Match.com. I was treating dating the way I treat a lot of things, which is I had an Excel spreadsheet with 30 weighted categories.
Yes.
I had an objective and subjective file. I had written out what I was looking for, what I wanted my life to look like. And I had already decided that falling in love was not hard to do. Finding a person and a partner who you could talk with, live with, and build a life together was. So when he first reached out, I was like, oh, great thing.
It was 10 out of 100 on my Excel. I handled them.
I literally was like,
I guess I didn't register.
well, I was like, I'm full. He wrote me a nice email. I was like, I'm full. I'll reach out to you later. And then what happened is that fell off. But then I was done dating these other guys. I was on Match.com looking and I found him, but I didn't make the connect. It was him. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I'm Jessa. Da, 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 da. And then he kind of picked up that, oh, he'd already reached out to me. I wasn't getting it. So he responded to the first email that he had sent me for our first date. And so at that point I realized, oh, he had found me. I had found him. We went on our first date. And then like, I don't know, 6 dates in, I was on a fast track, you know, I wasn't about falling in love and like having a good time. I was like, where's this going? Are you coming with me or are you not?
Yeah.
Because move down the bench, buddy. And so there was this evening that I was like really considering whether I thought this person was ready for what I was ready for. And then we were sitting on the couch in his house, just like this. I was considering whether we're going to nix this. And he gets a phone call from his friend Kevin. And he's like, congratulations, Kevin. I'm so happy for you and Anne. And then I get a phone call from Anne. And I'm like, congratulations, Anne. I'm so happy for you and Kevin. And unbeknownst to us, his dear lifelong friend and my good friend were engaged. And so a few months later, we're sitting at their engagement party, and this one looks at me and says, if I hadn't already met you, we'd be meeting tonight for the first time. So, you know.
Pretty wild story, right?
Yeah. Wild.
Wild. I mean, meant to be like confluence, synchrodestiny, whatever. You know, for me, those kind of things, like, it just, those touch points made for some connection. And then that's when we started skiing together.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I always love when those happen. Like, I could share like 20 stories, but it's fun. Like, because again, I agree with you. Like, falling in love is easy, but being like, can we build a life together? Do we align in our values, how we want to spend time?
Hard work.
Especially like rearing children and everything that goes into it. Like, that's the hard part.
Absolutely.
Like dating is easy. Marriage is a hell of a ride.
Absolutely.
And it takes a certain experience with that. But then it's like, so it's fun. You have these like different points along it of like the initial touch point being like, well, you don't fit in my spreadsheet. No, thank you. Not going to respond. And then all of a sudden maybe, and he's like, well, actually, funny you should mention that, to the couch, to the engagement party. But then also moving into, I mean, starting a business together. I mean, talk to me about how you have Jeff with this like business acumen, has done so many things, had these experiences. You've had this journey. I mean, talk to me about how those first like came together where you're all like, listen, let's actually build something special here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was slow at first. So it was like, I already had a couple businesses under my belt. And so when she had the idea for Rocksteady, I started her on just a spreadsheet model to run her business, and she ran it. And then I taught her how to do her books and stuff. And then we went from one office to the next, and just success started happening. And then all of a sudden we switched over to QuickBooks. And then from there, we just continued to outgrow locations. And we just had to keep organically putting, the stakes got higher. And it's one of those things that it's like Vegas. You got to put money in the game to make money. And so we just had to start kind of throwing our capital in the game to capitalize the business and let it become what it could be.
Yeah. You got to fuel the fire.
Okay. So this is,
It's where we're different. I speak differently.
well, I just kind of think that, the world of wellness that I deal with is primarily one's internal state.
Yeah.
And like you were saying with perceptions and projection, how do you really get to know a person? You know? And so what I'm going to say here is that this one is way humble. So for me, I grew up global, which expanded my horizons because I was literally traveling around the world, seeing the world through different eyes. And this one grew up in a really small town in Michigan, and of his own accord, decided to expand and went to Alaska, across the country, did all of this, and it was all tethered to climbing and adventuring and moving. his body into these positions and spaces where backcountry skiing and climbing, it's not just like you're an athlete. These are heady things. There is situations of consequence. Your literal life is on the line. You have to have a very advanced set of navigation, communication, tool management, like everything you would think of for business was already being applied. And you also need vision and imagination and creativity.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be willing to live outside the norm, because going and climbing a mountain, and climbing is time intensive.
Yep.
So I think what happened is that watching us move outside, backcountry skiing is a lot like running a business. You've got these like really intense details that you can't skip. You need your skins, you need your headlight, you need your 4 layers, you need your light gloves. You need a lot of equipment, a lot of gear. You need to organize and stash really well. You have to assess a lot of information, and it's all in service to some big line.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this man has vision. Like getting out in the backcountry, trying to pick a line and ski a good one is hard. It's not set for you. That's the thing about us. It's not set for us. Like you were saying, set for you is a track that's already created. Backcountry is white space. You're choosing your own line.
Blank canvas.
Blank canvas. And if you want someone to if you want to ski a good line, follow this one. This guy's vision and capacity to look at the terrain and select the optimal course is insane. So I think what I saw watching him navigate the world was like this deep self-confidence that is truly based in self-assessment, honest self-assessment. And when we started skiing that way, and then the conversations that are required, this one is really level, really candid, really truthful, really transparent. I often was offended. I often am offended, because he tells the truth.
Yeah.
And so when I saw those characteristics arise, and then the other thing is like this one had a huge whiteboard. So at this time when we were dating and we were exploring the mountains together, I was still running the Baptiste Institute. And so I was working really closely with the executives at Lululemon through Suzanne Conrad, who was the director of possibility at Lululemon at the time.
Okay.
And so she was in charge of leadership development internally and had our yoga institute come in to deliver these intense 3 to 5 day wellness retreats. Because remember, for us, yoga was a tool for self-discovery and transformation and empowerment. And we were delivering it to a huge team of Lululemon executives to help them drop into whole-bodiedness for application at work.
Yeah.
And so with Suzanne, I really started to learn a new integrated way of manifesting, which isn't really a word I use, but vision and goals. And so this guy always has a whiteboard. And if you're a climber or you're an alpinist, you have vision because it takes oftentimes years to develop the capacities and the skills required to hit the climb you want. So he had his objectives on the board. And I was like, oh, I have my 30-point weighted scale. You have your whiteboard with your objectives. And you know what? We fail. I've failed through many relationships quick. And when you're climbing, like you're going to, there's a couple climbs where this one worked for 5 years plus to do the climb.
Wow.
And so when I saw that, and then I told him I wanted to go to massage therapy school, and he just, the amount of confidence he had, and it wasn't bluster, it was based on his assessment of me, was so powerful. And then his capacity to take ideas that I have and then use his financial acumen, because he started at PricewaterhouseCoopers. And then at 26, he was like, peace, I'm going to go do my own thing and do this same skill set while I travel Italy.
Oh.
Then he can take that, and he presented a spreadsheet, but a spreadsheet that shows you what your idea will financially generate is different.
Love a good financial model.
Love a good financial model.
It's a business model, if I use my terms.
Yes. And that's where I'm at, because I love a spreadsheet because it helps me, there's so many tools that we can use as humans to help us. Let me back up a little bit. humans are really good about taking things and making them an extension of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, snowboarding and skiing is a great example. We put on boots, it becomes an extension of us, things that we can do. And an Excel spreadsheet, as nerdy as to say, is like an extension of like your brain, of giving it a blank canvas to be able to put dots down and project things out and really put like numerical values to things. So I will always love that pragmatic part of a spreadsheet, no matter what happens in my life.
Power to Excel, man.
Power to Excel. I love that you guys have these, I mean, similar experiences of, again, you were in consulting and in government, you were in PwC, both of you had these experiences like, I don't want to do this, but it's been part of your journey that was foundational, because like, I don't think of business as like the primary thing of anything. Business is a engine or a motive that can get you to have other things. There has to be something else. Like business in itself is nothing, but business when applied to wellness can start a practice. Business when applied to, I mean, even like a passion like skiing can lead to guiding or hardware. Like there's so many of the things, like it's an avenue, not necessarily a core principle within itself. Yeah. So I love that you guys have these similar foundations, but then also these complementing personality traits that really come together to really make something special.
Yep.
And both, I mean, we can talk about Rocksteady and part of that all day, but I'm sure that's like the tip of the iceberg of how the rest of your life is shaped on everything else on top of that. But I mean, going into the Rocksteady side of things, I mean, you've been very intentional about creating this business because you've had such a unique life and all of these factors that have come into a way.
Yep.
How has that played the key part in making Rocksteady what it is today and what it's become?
Okay, great. So I think what we have, some of the worldliness that Jeff and I have, this idea of being a global citizen, really come into play. Rocksteady, even as we've been talking about spreadsheets and backcountry movement, ideas and the details that support it, there's this premise of like whole brain. And I was just thinking how so often people still kind of segue and silo into not being whole brained or whole bodied. So in yoga or in wellness world, there's a lot of times this idea of people being kind of woo or out there, and people stay going left or right as opposed to coming into total wholeness. Mm-hmm. That makes sense? So Rocksteady is a really integrated wellness practice that hones and centers all aspects of being well. Wellness also can get siloed into being something relaxing or something luxurious or something really soothing. And for us, we know that huge, hard, heavy, intense endurance and output is wellness. So I think we have a deep foundation in, you could say we offer bodywork and Pilates. What we offer is movement as medicine. We offer a place where self-discovery is explored through the practices we offer that help an individual bring balance to their brain, balance to their body, and it is in order so that they can go out and bring balance to everything they do in the world. And our core values include being of service to humanity. Yeah. So when I think about what the world in general needs, it needs less division and more capacity to operate like the body does. The human body is this complex yet simple system that shares one global currency called blood. And that global currency is effortlessly and instantly distributed equally across every cell of every system in that body. It shares the same waste management system of your lymph and immune system. All that said, with those global currencies that are instantly transferred, you also have very specific hyperlocal cells doing exactly what they need to do. And should something happen and you're eating your burger and then fight or flight shows up, the digestive system, like the body is so unified that it will move beyond its own personal preference. Digestion will shut down so that blood can get diverted to your limbs, right? So there's this litmus of how to live in a balanced, well, global ecosystem of the human body. And that is what we do at Rocksteady. So we're really diverse. We're not a trendy place. We're not for one type of person. we're here to honor the need of every human who's reaching for wellness in their body and being, and to provide a pathway for it. We're deeply, deeply thoughtful and well-trained. We work with complex cases, people recovering from complex setbacks and surgeries. We also work with high-performing athletes and lifelong professional athletes, and people who are operating at high levels in their mental and professional lives. So I always get way off in the woo land.
All good, but because I agree with that, especially in today's world, people are looking for so much more of that groundedness and connection with themselves. And I mean, going back to kind of like the business itself, like I love the location because I mean, that whole Holladay Center area has, like, I mean, even when I came and visited, I was with my girlfriend and she had never really been around there. She's like, wait, what is this place?
Yeah.
And I was like, because like I don't spend a lot of time in Holladay just because, like, I mean, I don't have kids and like just
cool, man.
spend around it. But like, and that's what she said. She's like, I could live here. I'm like, so could I. Like, absolutely. I mean, especially with everything that's there, and then also just to have where you guys. I mean, it's and it's fun because you were there before kind of everything all came to be, and I know that there's a story in the space and everything that it's come to become.
Yeah. So it was that space, and that block is really interesting. Is that you know, being from Portland, I watched neighborhoods and blocks kind of get developed. That's what was going on in that town in the mid 2000s and so, or early 2000s. And so you would just see really cool things gaining energy. And so Black Diamond is right in that neighborhood. And so when you used to go down there, the only thing that was there was just an old Great Harvest, and it was like very old architecture.
Yeah.
It was fine, but it was beat, you know. And there's a really wonderful family that's done a lot of that development, the Melby families, 3 brothers. They're wonderful people. And they had a vision for that neighborhood and that block. And so they developed that all out, the Harmons, like a lot of the building.
And I love it, so many like local businesses.
It's really well thought out.
Because you have like Three Pines, you have Caputo, you have the Crown Burger. Yeah. Like, and it's not just like this huge commercial place, like the V1 of Sugar House that eventually
it's what I would call a Portland corner. That's what it is. And so when I saw that, we were ready to leave. We were in a place called The Loft, which is right next to the bayou and across from the stateroom downtown. We had a beautiful space there. And so we acquired a business that was in a space in that Holladay, someone that we knew that was in our network, a really strong practitioner, but not necessarily the best business owner. And so we came in and came alongside her and acquired the space and the business. And it was wild is that when we bought it, I knew full well that I needed to demo every square inch. It was god awful. But the energy when you walked in the space was really good, though. Always. It just like from day one, you liked it, right? And so we bought it, and then I immediately announced, because we bought a clientele too, and we had a clientele. And so we had to merge those cultures and those people. And I immediately announced, I was like, hey, we're going to close December 13th and remodel the whole space. And when I did that, I only knew a designer that was my good friend Alex Hamlin's wife, Rachel Hamlin. And so I had a designer, but I hadn't met a contractor in town yet. And I got connected from my real estate broker, Mike Morris, really OG climber here, former Nepal guide. He connected me into this man named Tricky Nicky, that I'll leave anonymous, who's just the sickest carpenter. And so Nick and this guy, Carl, they were like my anchors, and we got together, and it was all climbers, backcountry skiers, just a lot of bros. And we demoed the space and did the whole entire space in 6 weeks in 2017. It was bros being bros, not bros being bros, man. And like, and I rolled through everybody, man. Like I could go through all the cast of characters, but we've done every square inch of that space. And its influence in design is Portland. It's something you would see in Portland. It's something you would see in Seattle. It's something you see in the Bay Area. But it also has all these influences that are Northern European, because I spent a lot of time living in Amsterdam, and so did the Hamlin family. And so those guys lived in that region too. So we brought that, and then it blended with Jessa's kind of like cultural inheritance of being just a global citizen. So it brought all that into one. And it's a bodega. You don't even know it's there. And that's why we love it. So it's cool, man. It's fun.
Like, even when I showed up, I was like, all right,
where the hell is this place?
And then all of a sudden, like,
boom,
go up and like, because I was like, I mean, I like those experiences better than like a huge neon sign of come join. And so, I mean, I love what y'all have done with this space. And I mean, especially like going to that point of, I mean, merging businesses and these different, like, how it's all come together. It's unique in that it's not just body work and Pilates itself, but it's also educational where,
Yep.
I mean, you teach let me put it this way. It's not just a place where you give out fish, but you teach people how to fish as well.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And so it's been fun, like in a very small Lake City way. I mean, Ashley, who's, I mean, on your team, who I've met via multiple wine nights here at Wine Wednesday. So it was fun when I walked in. She was like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "What are you doing here?" And then they're like, "How do you know each other?" So always love that. But I mean, talk to me about how that business really became, I mean, so much more of that, but then also became an educational space.
Okay, I think mentorship is something that both Jeff and I also shared very early on. I think in the climbing space, mentorship really is part of that dynamic. And then for us with backcountry skiing, um, and I don't know if you noticed how he talked about the providers who were our contractors. Is one thing Jeff is excellent at is seeing excellence in everything and everyone. And I think for us, when we look at work, and I always like to take the lens of wellness to everything. How do you work in wellness? And really in a holistic way, it's bringing a high degree of excellence to anything makes it meaningful. I think in the tradition of like yoga, meditation, and what I had been learning too, is I had followed big mentors in life like Suzanne Conrad and Baron Baptiste. And beyond offering classes, they then teach you how to teach, which is, learn to fish. And I think a huge part of empowerment is learning to teach others. It just gives you so much. So pretty early on, I just realized I had been able to secure an immense amount of knowledge from these incredible opportunities to operate at a high level in the wellness world at Baptiste and with some of the partnerships with Lulu, that then when it was time for us to open our own, I have another mentor for bodywork that just everything I did in bodywork school, 1 week with this mentor blew it out of the water. And I've now worked with him continually for over 10 years. At the time, I spent a year and a half deeply working with him. And what I will say is that person light-yeared me forward. That's a term from Suzanne Conrad where you could say pay it forward. But beyond paying it forward, if you choose to mentor or teach someone and you do it really generously and you give them everything that's taken you a lifetime to learn, you literally accelerate their pathway of development by years.
Yeah.
And that is a gift. So for us, what we realized is, for one, bringing people in, there wasn't a cultural match. They didn't understand the values. They didn't get the body work. And so we started to offer teachings, trainings in-house because, for one, I just had so much to offer and so much that I needed to express out.
Yeah.
For two, it's totally appropriate with the body of knowledge I have. And I have trained so many yoga teachers in this valley, at studios in Park City, at studios here in Salt Lake. I have trained numerous massage therapists. And overall, when we started, I think social justice and kind of trying to create a space for equity to exist really matters to me. And I think what I was finding is that education is oftentimes to be really generous, where I was setting people up to be self-sufficient, as opposed to kind of giving them enough to learn, but not enough to go out on their own.
Yeah.
So self-sufficiency is something we've been able to really provide for people through our education, where it's not just content focused on yoga or Pilates or massage therapy techniques, but also those people need practice building tools, client management techniques. And that is something that both Jeff and I had in droves. And we saw an opportunity to continue to utilize Rocksteady as a catalyst for increasing the quality of practitioners in the field here in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, that's right.
And I like what you're saying about mentors because, I mean, in the journey of like what's called education of learning, I mean, skill, practice, whatever that might be, I mean, you can go to, let's use massage therapy as an example. You go to massage therapy school. They have the general textbook. Here's what you're going to learn. Take your test, do your thing. But then once you start progressing towards that goal of excellence and moving towards there, you really can't get that unless you have someone who's been there or is above that. And that is no longer a school. It's no longer a class. But once you experience that, have someone, I mean, take you by the hand or be like, this is what took me from here to here. That's where those light year jumps happen. And so many people get kind of stuck in like these ruts of just like this kind of like we can call it plateauing.
Yes.
But until they can have someone who can lift them up to find that next peak, it's hard to grow.
I think the point I'll make on this little dialogue we're having here is that it's a little bit of a shift we're seeing in society right now, where because of the flow of information is so flat and everywhere, is that people think they're the expert just because they got the information. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Self-confidence is a great thing.
Dunning-Kruger effect. That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yes. All right. We got there. Yeah.
But what I'll say is that, when you see excellence and you see humility in someone extending the olive branch to you, if you step into it and take it, it's just, the opportunity is amazing. And, like Jessa, I grew up in a family where my dad never came home and complained about the boss. Never once. Because he was the fucking boss. He owned his shit. He answered to no man. So that was like a form of mentorship, watching my own man just like own it. He made it happen. Then this David Sawyer character I spoke of, this guy was like a national level educational reformer. He's a well-known story out in the world that people should look up. And he became my mentor for 20 plus years. But then he became a colleague and a peer because it transitions over time. And then behind him, I met a man by the name of Dag Heinrichs that's been my business partner the last 3 years, but my sparring partner for over 20 years. We date back to grad school at the University of Oregon. And this guy taught me so much about, the energy game, the private equity game, and how to do what we call big game hunt. And like, these are not things you read books about or fucking watch a podcast, listen to a podcast, or, fucking do an AI thing. So, and then the other one I'll note in this space, and all these guys are really tightly tied together. We're a crew. We've been running together for a long time. Is this gentleman by the name of Matthew Spence? He lives in a spiritual community in Northern California, and this guy accepted my application into his book club in the early 2000s. And this is a Harvard guy that's just like an encyclopedia of knowledge. And this man has influenced my reading and my intellectual influences so much. And I wouldn't be where I am today or where we are today without meeting these people. So I tell this story. I think we tell these stories of mentorship for the listeners to inspire them to go looking for that, because there's lots of great thinkers in this town. There's lots of great people in this town. Like, we're in a really great spot here in Salt Lake City, and it's having multi-generational relationships and having respect for experts or people of intellectual authority around here is a good thing. Yeah, especially if they're kind and really good leaders, which there's a lot of those here in Utah. So it's cool, man.
Totally. And so many people are so willing to, like, I've never come across anybody, and if I have, I mean, it's so much more of the exception than the rule, of going to something like, hey, I would love to sit down and talk about this, or I would love to learn more about this. Everyone's like, yeah, would love, let's go grab coffee, let's go grab a drink, let's go, whatever it is. And that's one kind of perception that's changed a lot for me recently, is like the thought of giving back. Yeah. Because I always had this perception of giving back as like, oh, once I have a lot of money, I will donate things and I'll have a name on a building, as I know.
Each and every day, man.
The biggest thing you can ever give back is your time and your knowledge, because that's the only thing that we can give to people before we kick the bucket at once upon a time, is like, here's the lessons I've learned, here's the things I've grown and learned to become. Take this for what it's worth. Some people will understand in its context, some people won't, but there's people that, again, like, the amount of things I've been able to accomplish has never been on my own, and I've never been able to do it without people that have helped me get there.
Yeah. And I think that, by nature, one of the things at Rocksteady that we really focus on is this bridging. So bridging, you can call it integration. Integration is both and. Two things can coexist, even if they seem opposite.
Yes.
So, you can break cognitive dissonances, like when you're holding two things that seem polarized or not able to coexist, and they actually do. So you just say yes and, base of improv, right? Is that we're bringing together the best of these ancient modalities that primarily have been passed down person to person, teacher to student, in small settings at a time. Massage therapy happens that way. Great yoga teacher trainings happen that way. Carpentry,
flowing,
climbing. So we just have been operating in areas where craft really comes from basic knowledge available anywhere. But as you titrate up to that higher level, even we're staying in the tangible 3-dimensional world that isn't digital. One of the things at Rocksteady is really, when you start to look at wellness practices, all the science of well-being is like in person, 3-dimensional. It is, we have a body. And the digital age is so cerebral, yet it's leaving physiology behind. The body needs movement, connection, touch, all the 5 senses. So to go into a form of mentorship where you can work really closely with 1 to 4 people at a time or 1 to 10 people at a time, it's such a unique way to bring back this ancient practice of experiential learning. Experiential learning is where you're learning by watching, doing, and being in the place with the person doing the thing.
Yep.
Different than reading it conceptually in a book.
Yeah.
And so it just was a really natural fit for us to bring that element in.
Yeah, and I'll put one more layer on this, is that, and this is something we're all guilty of. Every fucking person, when you're 25 years old, there's like a couple points where you think you know everything.
Oh, yeah.
18, then you go to college or you go like get a job and you get your teeth kicked in a little bit, but then like you get strong again. And then like at 22, you think you know it all. But then like when you start working, I worked with a lot of young professionals in different kind of engagements I've been over the last few years, and they're super eager, they're super smart, but they're super quick to shoot at people above them as if they know better because they just got their fucking degree. And when you look at leaders, being a leader is a thankless job, man. Like no one ever fucking pats you on the back. They only shoot at you. That's just how it goes. That's the job. And I say this because when you're younger, to have patience and try to understand what the people before you are doing is much more beneficial to your development than having angst and skepticism, which is very prevalent in society today. And so I just think these are things that we got to slow the fuck down a little bit and try to have context on what's going on around us versus opinion and judgment.
Yeah. And it's fun of going through those experiences of rising. Cause like I remember when I was again graduated from college, had my degree, think I know things. And I'd look at someone in leadership or above me, and let's use corporate America as an example, and I'd be like, I could do that. Like you know that. Like that's fine. I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And but when you're up there, you realize you're like, this is one small, narrow hallway path, and there's 10 to 12 of these.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to take all of them into account with everything else that goes on.
That's right.
And then you have all of these 12 people and all these different things being like, well, this matters most. This matters like, I hear all of you. Here's what's happening because this is what I, at the end of the day, subjectively think what's going to be best for everybody based on that. And not everyone's going to be happy. Not everyone's going to be mad. And my usual barometers, if it's equal among the naysayers and the protagonists, then I'm probably somewhere in the middle or like doing something right. But when too many people are happy or too many people are sad, then something gets left. It's kind of like a sales process. Anytime I get to the end of like a sales process, like using a car as an example, if I'm buddy with that guy, I probably just got taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. If he's mad at me, I probably got a really good deal.
Yeah.
And so in the same way, it's like you kind of have to balance those two things. And the more that experience you can have an understanding, then you can look back and be like, oh, that's funny. Because, I mean, every time I talk to someone who's in their early 20s, I'm like, I know you think you know, but life's going to, again, like to Jeff's point, kick you in the teeth.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Rocksteady, and I think, some of the things that are important to us or that I think have us stand out is it's called a wellness practice, not a Pilates studio. It's a wellness practice, not a yoga studio. It's a wellness practice, not a bodywork. And I specifically use the word bodywork because bodywork is not massage.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we operate in is delivering really deep, thoughtful, functional, therapeutic techniques and tools that give people access to repatterning towards positive patterns, mentally, emotionally, physically. Pilates does that. Deep tissue body work, it's not like a luxury. America needs to broaden their conception of what a massage is, and it's not only about relaxation. Our style of deep tissue functional therapy is we are activating, organizing, and the core functional muscles and strategic, like structural areas of your body so that you can have optimal performance. Yeah. And then we're dissolving buildup. We are alleviating, how the number one thing about in medicine and wellness, people will say stress. Stress shows up in your body.
Yeah.
So to come in for a 90-minute bodywork session and you're coming in loaded with what's going on, you're feeling compressed, you're feeling tension, your mind's going a million miles a minute, 90 minutes later, you are that blank POW field that we were discussing.
Yeah.
And so to bring people back to that white space through decompressive, deep tissue, and functional manual therapy and movement practices to give people access to white space and a lift in energy is really what our focus is. And then as you can see, our culture, like our Rocksteady exists for everyone who walks in the door. We say that everybody is practicing wellness, whether it's professionally as something we're offering. It's also something we are, whether it's professionally or personally. So for us, our culture is as important. Wellness is the way we work. It's not just a commodity we offer to people who come in. We're working in wellness. My team having a safe space to ground, to clear, to gather. My team, our team, understanding real communication, having a flatter hierarchy.
Work-life balance.
Work-life balance. Like we really wanted to create a place where we could take Rocksteady as a container to practice what it might be like for business to work well, and for work to be a place that feels good to be at. So I want it to be, we're really focused on having a reflexive place, and wellness isn't an end in itself. It's not just about a person feeling better for personal optimization. For us, what we see is that community care is a big word, and starting to create healthy places to practice your life, practice the skills you're gaining to bring wellness to every way we live in the world.
Yeah.
So I have great aspirations for the world. I think about the world very globally. A lot of us get stuck in these microcosms, like I live in this neighborhood and this city, and that's real, and those places matter. You also live in a collective called planet Earth. And so for me, just like the body, sure, calf muscles, psoas, kidneys, there's a lot of diversity, and there's distinct local places where we play, and we really need to be cognizant and connected to what those practices are. Yet anything disconnected in the body is cut off from resource.
Yeah.
Okay. And so for us, I think Rocksteady is a place where people can come to grow and develop and appear in their utmost beauty and contribute their best to themselves, the cells that make up their body, and to the places that they participate in.
Yeah.
And in a small way, it's our way of contributing to the betterment of the world through applying yourself. And for us, we love that our team gets to practice Pilates, we design the space not just for the client, but for the provider as well.
Yeah.
We wanted autonomy. We wanted to give them agency and access to choosing their own tunes, to working in daylight, to anyways.
Yeah.
So,
because like one thing I love about the journey that is wellness, and so many people are on so many different stages of it, is so many people like to apply so many frameworks in their own life of like very binary of like everybody needs to do this and they will experience that. When at the end of the day, we're all different creatures going through different things, and different things work differently for different people. Like for me, I know what I need is my morning routine to set me up physically, mentally, emotionally to be my best self during the day.
Yeah.
Now that's very different than what one other person could need. And especially in this age where, and I could talk about it for hours, but for the sake of all of us, I won't, of where we've reached this point where physical evolution has reached its maximal state. And now we're in this emotional and spiritual and like intellectual revolution, which is a person by person basis. And there is no, that's laws that are get applied to it. Because it's fun to see two people who have such unique perspectives of the world themselves. Like I love the way, Jessa, that you talk about being a global citizen. Because I mean, so many of us, especially in the Valley, like I have so many friends that grew up in the same neighborhood, never left it, bought a house in it, raising a family in it. And so much of their perspective is so narrow. Whereas you have this global experience. Jeff, you also have this global experience. And because of these experiences and the perceptions and perspectives, I guess I should say, that you have, makes you care about things that are happening in the world around you.
That's right. Yeah.
And I know that there's some that matter a lot to you, especially using backcountry skiing as an example, seeing the Great Salt Lake start to go away. And let's talk about the Great Salt Lake. Yeah, it's great. We love it.
I think with a topic like this, I want to put some kind of guardrails or some shape to it, and because it's a complex topic, and so when you talk about things like this, there's three types of problems. There's simple problems, there's complex problems, there's what's known as wicked complex problem. This is a complex problem that borders on wicked complex. The second container I'll give to this is that when you get into these things, there's a formula to it, and the formula is commercial readiness plus people readiness equals what's known as the human embodiment problem. And this is the work of this man, Dag Heinrich, that I mentioned. It's what he's been making sense of the last few years. And what goes on in this is that the human embodiment problem is a feature, not a flaw. And what happens is that in these issues, people get emotional, they get upset, and it guides the discussion in a different way. It moves it into what we think, opinions, power, politics, versus the true matter-of-factness. Okay? So that's my container as I get into this. So I'm only going to talk about the commercial or the intellectual side of this. I'm going to park the emotion of it, even though it's valid. And everyone that has those feelings, they're valid. But when you look at the Great Salt Lake, it is in decline. It has been for some time. And this is a really serious fucking issue in this town. It's our future is attached to it. And I think Governor Cox sees it that way. I think he's done a good job of putting some things in place to try and move the needle and make incremental change. But what with this is that we have this opportunity where everyone's all excited about the Olympics, and that's going to be really great for this town. It was great for this town. It was huge for this town in 2002. It'll be huge for this town in 2034. Well, what if in 2034 people show up in this town and it's at 2,000 square miles when it needs to be at 4,300 or something? Yeah. It's going to be a national story. It's already been a national story. It's been in the New York Times. So this issue, when I get into kind of the commercial side of it, is that it needs really sound thinking. That's not about let's water our lawns less as residential people, and let's xeriscape our yards, because that's not material in making change. And it needs creative thinking where you have to go to the source, right? You have to track things back. And if you look at the Great Salt Lake, it's got tributaries that flow into it. Well, a tributary, if you were to put it in business terms, it's essentially a value chain. Anytime you're trying to bring a new idea into the world that's complex, whether it's in, whatever field you're in, hydrogen, carbon capture, wind, solar, you track the value chain to make a big vision happen. The vision in this town is like, let's save the Great Salt Lake. And that's a great vision. That's a great marker out there. But if we were to go and take that value chain, tracking those tributaries back, is that you would go along everywhere along those rivers that flow in, and you would find value add, things that are value add, and you would find things that are non-value add. And what I'm saying there is that if you track each source where water's being consumed, where it's being used for different uses, there's a lot of industrial farming along those tributaries. It's been here for 50 years, 75 years, 100 years. There's wonderful families that own those farms and make their living at it. But if you were to look at the amount of resource they're taking in the form of water that's not getting to the Great Salt Lake, and if you were to go and compare that to the per capita economics of what's happening here, you would find an imbalance. That's just what's going to go on there. And so what I'm saying is a non-value activity is taking more of the value of the water. And these are some of the questions I'd love to see in this debate. And maybe they're happening because I'm not in the conversation, man. Right. I'm just a smart guy living in this town like everybody else. But this thing needs to accelerate, is what I'll say, because it's such a complex problem. And if we don't start making more material gains on it versus just this like little hopscotch Mickey Mouse shit that's going on, we're going to have a real problem in this town. And so like a piece I tried to kind of bring this argument up, it was probably 3 years ago now, is that I wrote a piece on it. We have a journal on Rocksteady where we share thinking and thoughts. And I wrote a piece, I think it was called a love letter from the Great Salt Lake, or a letter from the Great Salt Lake. And instead of being like, hey, we need to do this and that, and you got to do this, is that I wrote a piece with a really good copywriter by the name of Merritt Fisher, who's published in the New York Times, and she helps me with some of my writing at times. We work together. We're a great team, and we chose to personify the Great Salt Lake, to make it a human, to give it a human existence, and to show its plight that it's been going on for a long time, because that lake wasn't a lake. That was the Bonneville Sea. That's what this valley was, man. There's fucking places you can go at the mouth of Little Cottonwood where you can get that story of what went on here.
You can see shells.
You can see it,
Everywhere.
right? That's part of the history of this valley. And so now we're left with this little Great Salt Lake, and we got to make it great. We need to rename it the Greater Salt Lake because it needs to get bigger. Yeah. And so in this piece, we give it voice, and we compare it to looking at a friend that's really sick. And talking about friends that died, like the Owens Lake that used to be in California. That is a former salt lake that it died. It's gone. LA ate it, like the LA ecosystem, like it ate it up. It's gone. And so in telling this story of personification, I think it helps us humanize it and ground it down to, whoa, like we really gotta get working on this. And the way that problems like this get solved is not necessarily through there's two types of organizations that go on, like in anywhere. There's hierarchical organizations, and there's what's known as impact networks. And impact networks is the work of David Sawyer. It's the work of Matthew Spence, good friends of mine. That's work they brought into the world. It's captured in films and in a book. And with a complex problem like this, a hierarchical structure of, hey, Jessa, Eric, don't water your lawn. Eric, take a shorter shower, like just a little bullshit like that, which that's not what's going on entirely, but I'm using it as an example. That's tough because hierarchical is command control, and that's people rebel against that always. We're humans, we're individuals. But in a network is taking a tough, complex problem like this, and it's bringing people together across public-private partnerships to try and find the things that we share and the things that we really believe we can do about it, so that we can really make not incremental change, but material change. Yeah. So that's just a layup of like some of the way I've been thinking about this and with people I've been having conversations with in this town, because it's our future. It's how I feel.
I think, can I?
I was just going to say one thing really quick is I love that personification point, because there's I don't know if you follow, but there's like the GSL hotline, or I can't remember what it's called specifically, but I've seen on Instagram, they've had it here where it's a phone booth. They move it around the city, and you can leave a message to Great Salt Lake, call it, talk to it, and leave a message.
I saw that at TEDx.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so good,
I
right?
had it here at Edison House for a little bit.
Amazing.
Around.
Yes. Totally. You can leave a message for the lake and talk to the lake. Yes. Which actually, I think the person who developed that is Native American from Salt Lake. I'll have to
talk to him.
Revisit that. But the personification of the lake comes back to when we were speaking about, co-creation is having a conversation with reality. And if you're having a conversation with reality to create your inner reality, you're recognizing that that this is an environment. So Rocksteady actually means homeostasis. Homeostasis is a dynamic equilibrium that is the optimal environment for life. It's what you try to create in a petri dish. Yeah. It's what we try to create at the cellular level, at the systemic level within the human body. And I think when you start to look at the superstructure of the world, it's all about systems and structures. Even in wellness, it's all about systems and structures and trying to create optimal structures that can sustain your posture through life, that can sustain your optimal environment. Yeah. And so I think for us, the environment, at least for me, the natural world is our first world. We've all come out of this earth. And so having this perspective of trying to bring balance and harmony to the air and to the water that feed the bodies that we hold, it would be incomplete and siloed or fragmented to start to think about personal wellness as if it could exist separate from the wellness of every aspect of the whole world. And here we can look at, political structures, social structures, economic ones. But yeah, I think the Great Salt Lake is an issue we care deeply about.
It's like the same, using a metaphor used earlier is, all of our bodies have the same currency of blood. Mm-hmm. And if any sort of the things that make our bodies work and flow gets disrupted, bad things can happen.
That's right.
And in the same way, like if you have a disease that makes blood not flow to your hand, you could lose a hand.
That's right.
So in the same way, if we don't realize that there's something out of homeostasis, we're going to lose a hand, and it's not a hand, it's our home. It's the place that we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll just put a pin in this one. And guys, I mean, with the Great Salt Lake, this whole podcast, we're talking about ski and pow and how everyone, and that's why like half this town is they're all powder hungry, man, for good reason. It's fucking dope, riding powder. That's just going to be gone if we don't get this intact, because our whole, weather forecast relies on the lift off the Great Salt Lake to create the greatest snow on Earth. So in a world where that continues to, decline, our skiing is going to suck. Then our hiking will be good. That's okay. But the problem is that with that hiking is that, the history of this land is that, a lot of, metals and different contaminants are in that Great Salt Lake. And there's no blame. That's just, the price of progress and the price of development. And that's what they knew at the time. But it exists underneath that body of water, which is ultimately the lid keeping it safe. And so in a world where that thing continues to decline, the exposure we're all going to have in this valley to that is really concerning. We have friends that have moved from Salt Lake to Park City because they're concerned about it. They're moving ahead because they're like, oh, it'll be better over here. So like, this is an issue that winning is the only option. And, I just look forward to us as a community and as the leaders in this town and in this state, really putting some firepower to this. And to the credit to Spencer Cox, I mean, they threw like $300 million at the other day. That's a start. But there's more work to do, and people know it. So I'm not telling anybody they don't know anything right now.
Work to be done, and there's definitely an urgency to it. And I hope we can get to a good answer, because like I don't want to leave this place. Like,
we love it here, man.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, on the same topic of skiing pow and what brings a lot of people here, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the gondola and everything that's going on in that conversation, because it's so interesting to hear because like I'm very anti-gondola. Like, I mean, there's so many things that are like so much an easier solution of, I mean, even just, I've taken the bus up many times. Like, would I rather take my car and have my own everything super easy? Yeah. But would I rather have easier access, more people to get there, less, impact on the infrastructure? Like, yeah. And there's so many things to it, but would love to hear your thoughts on that conversation.
I'm going to start. I'm going to be really brief because, again, I think the beauty of Rocksteady and the human body is it is such a powerful place. It is such a roadmap for how to present simple solutions for complex or diverse ecosystems. And flow in the body, as we've already talked about with Great Salt Lake, but here too, flow is so important. And one of the things we're looking at is access to energy within the body. So you might have muscles, but you need your nerves to be able to connect to those muscles to make them fire. So we have to activate channels and have flow happening within us. And bodywork and Pilates help us develop systems that allow for great flow of energy to all the muscles that need it to contract. And fluid-wise too, for lymph drainage and for circulation, which feeds every single cell and then cleans it, flow is so crucial. And the body is such a great example of how we have this systemic system and this capacity to switch things on and off. The reason I'm highlighting that is I think as humans, we're so entrained to think about challenges or things that are arising as a problem, and to think about it from having our own perspective and trying to advance that part. Parts can't sustain life on their own within a body. You need to build something that works for the whole. So many of us could probably benefit from being less attached to our personal perspective and more willing to look at what everyone and everything needs.
Yeah.
And then Rocksteady is all about starting simple. And we work with a lot of people in the medical field, a lot of surgeons, and a lot of them agree with us. Let's not cut that tendon if we can just rehab it. So we're human-powered people. We ski in the backcountry because, lift is nice every now and then. And climbing is the same way. You're traveling terrain that you then get to descend. So simple solutions that cause the least amount of disruption are usually really effective. Yeah. So I just want to presence that and then pass it on over because this one's thinking is pretty awesome.
No, I like that's a good framework to come across. Like that so many people get so beholden to our own opinion, and I think everybody needs to have this, and I need to convince you that this is right instead of zooming out in the broader system of things.
Yeah, and this is a flow problem, right? The red snake is a flow problem. We have a flow of traffic problem because everyone wants to go up there for good reason, And so when you look at this is a complex problem. And when you look at it, it requires a strategy. And strategy is three things. It's where you're going. It's the top. It's the summit. Where are you at? And how you're going to get there, which is all the steps in between. And the issue I've kind of taken to this one, and I've written on this piece too, it's on our journal, as I wrote a 3-part piece 3-4 years ago on this. And I looked at each thing that's going on, okay? Because there's 2 proposals on the table. And the first proposal is to build a gondola, right? And UDOT's done a ton of work on that, and they've modeled that out. And they're not wrong, but they're looking at it from the wrong lens, okay? And let me explain why, is that UDOT is saying, yeah, for the best flow and the safest mode of traffic, we will build a gondola and the traffic flow is dependable and the rate is dependable. But they're making an assumption of what I would call the revenue or the user riders of what are going to happen with that. And the reality is that no one in their fucking right mind is going to ride a fucking gondola for 45 minutes when you can drive your car 15 to 20 minutes on 350 days of the year, and there's only 15 days where you need the gondola. So ultimately what you have is a huge overhang, and that overhang is what is ultimately be paid for by taxpayer dollars. And if you were to go talk to the taxpayers, who the people have spoken, if you took a vote of everybody that lives in Utah, it is unanimous that they do not want to do this because it's not a good use of funds. It doesn't support the people of Utah. It supports 2 resorts that have a problem and 1 canyon that has a road infrastructure problem. So the last thing I'll say on that one is that in the argument that UDOT is making and the build a gondola people are making is that they're not looking at the people side that I talked about earlier, which is the visual blight of ruining, which is the treasure of the Wasatch, Little Cottonwood Canyon, is irreparable. Like, you cannot reverse towers, 13 miles of towers. It would be a travesty if that's what we chose to do, and this, people might choose to do that.
Yeah.
So where does that leave us? So the second thing that's on the table is the people that want to stay here where they sit, which is just everybody ride the bus. Okay. And in theory, that sounds great. Let's all get on buses. Let's go up there. Let's buy more buses. It's assets. They're worth something. If it all goes bad, we could sell it. If global warming continues and we can't drive cars, we'll all ride buses around town. All is well. Well, the problem with that one is that the bus doesn't win, right? Because when you're in the Red Snake, the bus is just as fucked as everybody else, right? It's just sitting in traffic.
Yeah.
It's no good, man. And so again, we have an infrastructure problem, and this side keeps looking at it in a very infrastructure way that's like, the lessons of I-80, 215, where they're like, yeah, man, we build highways in Utah. Let's build fucking 4 lanes. No problem. And then traffic will flow because there's more lanes, there's more flow. Well, that's a tough infrastructure project because I-80, where they did between Sugar House and let's call it the 215 interchange, that was a goddamn 3-year project just to do something that's simple and very straightforward from a civil infrastructure standpoint. Little Cottonwood ain't simple, man. Yeah. That is a complex environment. And so this one doesn't quite work either. And I didn't get into the cost overruns of either of these because these are huge capital projects that are quoted in 2019 prices. And we're here coming up on 2026 and shit has changed.
Very much.
So that's a tough thing. So what do I think? Well, if you go to different areas that have traffic problems, such as Chicago, such as major metropolitan areas, is that there's often times where they have traffic flows where they'll have a 3-lane system, and it can move either 2 in one direction, 1 back, and then it can flip and be 2 in the other direction and 1 back. And so
they've already started doing in West Valley and even
man. So this is again going back to it. This is a traffic flow problem, and so. The problem doesn't start when you enter the mouth of Little Cottonwood. The problem is starting to build in Big Cottonwood too. So Wasatch is part of the traffic flow problem. And Wasatch is prime to make that thing 3 to 4 lanes to people move, but at least 3 continually, where during peak, when you have peak, when you have peak going up in the morning, when there's the craze that is the Wasatch Powerhounds, 2 can flow up. Well, 1's flowing down because not that many people are coming down. And that same point of view can be taken up Little Cottonwood, where I believe, and I'm not the civil infrastructure guy, so UDOT can true me up. I believe you can get 3 lanes in there with those shoulders. And in a world where you get 3 lanes, it allows you to do 2 lanes of passenger vehicles. But then this is how the fucking bus wins, man. The bus gets the other lane.
Yeah.
And we all sit on the bus, high-fiving with our friends, waving, because we're on a 20-minute commute up to Snowbird, we're getting dropped off at trailheads where we're going to backcountry ski, where Brad Barlage will come back a Little Cottonwood again because he won't go in there because of the traffic. He'll come back where Caroline Gleich is going to go ski. Like, it becomes a solution that solves the many versus the few. It becomes a solution that's about the stakeholders involved, not the shareholders involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so this same thinking of what I call 2 up, 1 down, that reverses in the afternoon when the rent stake builds. You flow 2 down, and that bus lane, off you go. And yeah, you got an infrastructure problem to build the roads out. Yeah, you got an investment problem, investing in buses. But buses are assets that are worth something on your balance sheet, and they're worth something on the city and the state's balance sheet. Yeah. And so the other component
within a gondola.
Yeah, man. Like a fucking pole all the way up there isn't worth anything, dude. That's scrap. Mm-hmm. Sorry, my language. I get a little fired up in this one because our place for years was looking up Little Cottonwood Canyon. And if I watched cranes in there, putting towers in there, there would be some monkey wrench shit going on. Yeah. Like, it's not cool. So the last thing I'll say on this is that the other opportunity here is everybody acts like they got to go on their own. There's this huge opportunity for really cool transportation hubs around the city. Because I bet all the people that come from the South, it sucks getting up, 9,400 or the pathways that get you to Little Cottonwood. So there's an opportunity to do transportation hubs, direct shop buses from many different points and distribute the load and distribute the flow. Yeah. And so I would really love to see some of this thinking come to the forefront, and maybe it exists, to be fair. I just haven't seen it.
But it needs so much more of the voice because it's what people want.
Yeah, so that's just kind of how we've talked about it in our household.
I mean, we're passionate because it's things we love and enjoy and what brings so many people here, and it goes away, and it's
the thing I'll say again, going back to when I talk about commercial readiness plus people readiness equals human embodiment, it's like, with the Olympics coming here in 2034, we already talked about how the Great Salt Lake could be a shining moment or a big problem. Mm-hmm. The gondola is no different. Like, I started seeing stuff where people are getting all fired up, being like, we got to get that gondola done before the Olympics, and it's like, hold your fucking horses, like. Yeah. There's no event in Little Cottonwood. Like, it ain't an event. Like, no one, like, visitors are going up there. And the other thing that I will, kind of kick or jab a little bit is, I think there's a point of view that people think that this is a really keystone project for Utah, as if, we're the first ones in the world to build a gondola up a canyon. This only happens in Europe, but this doesn't exist anywhere. This is a first of kind. This is a prototype. I'm very comfortable saying that. And so this isn't a way to showcase our town. A way to showcase our town is by having a beautiful transportation flow that you admire when you're in Japan on trains, when you're in Europe on high-speed trains, when you're in Chicago using the L, an old school thing, when you're in the subway in New York City. So, I think we can showcase how great Utah is with different ways that are smart, progressive transportation solutions supported by great people called this community.
Amen.
Yeah.
No, totally agree.
It's so easy in life to want to avoid what isn't working or to just let it be.
Yeah.
It actually takes a lot of effort to work towards wellness on all levels, right? And I think what we want to see happen, or what I see happening, is that as business owners and as contributors to our community, having the courage to stand in and ask questions and participate in not only what's happening locally in our own spheres, also expanding the circle of what we care about and what we're curious about, and starting to bring in more detachment from our own outcome, and maybe seeing if we can rise above the patterns of interaction that exist or the dynamics that we see as common today, conflict-based, politics, interest-based, and try to look at things from a whole different lens.
Yep.
So it's really lovely to have the chance to talk and think about who we are, where we're living, and how we can make ourselves, each other, and the environments that hold us better.
Sustainable.
Exactly. That's all we want. Sustainability, and like using your example, Jeff, of making everything flow. And understanding and like even talking about what you were talking about, Jessa, is like zooming out of the bigger, broader thing and getting away from what we're beholden to. But Before we want to wrap up, want to end with the 2 questions I always ask everybody at the end of each episode. Number 1, if either of you could have someone on the Small Lake City podcast and hear more about what they're up to or their story, who would you want to hear from?
Man, I'll give one. Yeah. Who you got to have on that is just a great story is Jimmy Keithley, man. Like, Jimmy Keithley's been in this town. He was born and raised here. Former door-to-door Mormon missionary. And Jimmy is known as the window washer in town. And he owns Outlook Windows. And Jimmy's just loved by all, man. And he's got a wonderful family. And they're just like, they're a great family unit. And he's always been a big advocate involved with Salt Lake Climbers Alliance. And, he's a working man that balances, pursuits and self-pursuits and with family as the core. And I think Jimmy would be a wonderful person to come on with you and just kind of tell his story. So you're welcome, Jimmy. I just might have got you on a podcast. So I know you're going to let out this. So that'll be a couple window washings on both the biz and the house. So let's clean that up, buddy.
Love it.
Gosh, the beauty of having a business like Rocksteady is we get to meet so many incredible people who are living and contributing to this valley in so many different ways that my list is very long.
Oh, I can only imagine.
However, given that we're here as a couple, I'll pick a few. The first that comes to mind is long-standing client and very good friend Caroline Gleick and Rob Lee.
Before.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
okay, so check. Have you had Rob Lee?
I haven't had Rob on, which would be because when I was setting up to record, because I recorded in her house up in
Park City or
Silver Lake,
yeah.
And it was fun because she's like, at first you got like, who the hell are you and what are you doing in my house? And then we started talking, and then they came to an event actually here about a year ago, and it was fun talking to him about, his long distance swimming and everything that they saying.
Right now, they're going to Hawaii soon to swim that channel, and I just learned about cookie cutter sharks. They're these ancient prehistoric sharks, and they like have this round mouth. Anyways, just swimming the channel issue. Yeah. So they're rad. So if not them, then the other person that I think of is also in our field of wellness and is someone I met really early on. There's 2 ladies. Just cool how these little things start to rise and grow together. Yeah. And back when we had our place on the loft on State Street, people started finding me. My work was legit. People were showing up. And Ann Cass Stevens came in. Yeah. And Ann Cass Stevens holds it down at Stout Lake City. It is functional fitness, strength training with kettlebells, barbells, all that stuff. It is profound. She's rad. She's into jujitsu, and she holds down that studio. All her.
Like a badass.
She really is, and she's so fit and so good at what she does. Yeah. And then I would love, Gnarly's.
Oh, Shannon O'Grady. Oh, yeah. Shannon O'Grady is rad.
Yeah, I think she's an incredible female.
She's a hitter. Oh, yeah.
She's a hitter. She's in it to win it. And her nutritional guidance is phenomenal. And her contribution to that local company is awesome. She's a great story.
Yeah. I'm going to throw one more. All right. One more, last one, and we'll close. Is you got to have Fisher Steve on, man. I already should have Fisher Steve. And that's a really cool story, man. I got mad respect for how those guys have developed out that property that is Fisher Brewing, and the grit they have
just keeps growing
the way, but like it's a long story, man. Like that thing goes back to like they had years of incubating it and kind of like setting up to be able to open a brewery, and then they lived through fucking COVID like us, and that was hard for bars, that was hard for wellness places like us, for gyms, and I think Fisher, Steve's a wonderful guy, and I think he'd be a fun storyteller to have on here. So you should invite him on sometime.
They build something super special. Like, anybody I bring into town,
Fisher,
the water's all both. And those are, especially with everything coming in like just the Central Ninth area and them being a huge part of all of that.
Yep.
And then last question, if people want to find more information about Rocksteady or both of you, what's the best place to go to?
Yeah, so we put a lot into our brand and our point of view, which is the Rocksteady website, www.rocksteadybodyworks.com, and then probably by the time this thing launches, a lot of the stuff I've been sharing or my point of view is that my project will be up which is the Roche approach. And so that's like www.rocheapproach.com. And so that should be up behind this thing does. And that's a lot of my thinking and a lot of my work in the world. So I think that's where you can find more about, our work in the world and the things we're trying to strive for and contribute and be a part of.
Making the world a better place.
That's right.
Love it.
One body at a time.
Exactly. No, thank you both so much. It's been great. Keep doing what you're doing. Love all that you're doing. And I mean, making people, like helping people individually feel better about them and their bodies, but then also being so invested into this, environment and community that we're a part of and want to keep enjoying it the way that it is. So keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Salt Lake City Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, review, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. And we'll catch you next week. We'll see you there.